Okay, we'll start in a minute. Let others join. Not sure how many are going to join. Uh, till this point, before we begin, does anybody have any questions regarding previous lectures? Yeah, could be some of them are working. Okay. Anybody has any questions regarding anything that we have previously learned? No? Okay. This is going to be a very important lecture today, what we are going to study. Today we are going to talk about authentication. So I request you should ask a lot of questions if something is not clear. Okay. Okay, let's begin then. Some of the students are still joining, but okay. So today we are going to talk about authentication and authorization. So right now, what we have built one route in which we are creating this post, right? But we are in this we are dependent on front end to pass us the user ID, right? Whoever is calling this API will pass us this user ID. Okay. Now, if we leave this dependency to front end, then you can guess uh, that anybody could misuse this API, and I can give some other user's user ID and create a post on behalf of that user, which is not safe, right? This is not safe to do so. So, for example, there are, let's say, um, hold on, there are two users, user one and user two, and user one passes user two's user ID, right? User one uh, sends the user ID for user two, and he creates a malicious post, an offensive post or whatever. That will not be very safe. So if you are a logged in user, then only you should be able to add a post, right? So in cases like this, we need the authentication. So to before we talk about authentication, how it's supposed to work, I want to show you a flow diagram. This flow diagram you may already be aware of, and this is the process that most of the applications follow. And you will see that whenever a user lands on the application, there are two possibilities, whether the user is already logged in or the user is not logged in. You don't have to log in or every time you open an application, right? Sometimes you are also logged in already. Okay. So in those cases, to handle those cases, the first question that the application has to decide is whether the user is logged in or not logged in. So if the user is logged in, then we take the user to the home page, whatever the home page is. Otherwise, we show the user a login or sign up screen. So on login and sign up screen, we user can either log in or user can click on that they are a new user and they can go to register screen, right? Clear? Is this part clear? The first question that we have to the first question that we have to answer is whether the user logged in or not logged in. Correct? If the user is not logged in, then we prompt the user to log in. Otherwise, we send otherwise if user does not have an account, we send the user to register screen. Once the user once the user registers, we add the user data to the database saying that this is a new user, right? And during login, when user gives us email and password, we read that data from database, checking whether the user is present in the database or not present. Okay. So then we have these additional steps where we ask the user to verify email. We are not going to worry about this right now. Okay. This part you don't have to worry about. We are going to build this flow, register, login, all these flow, and we are also going to check for the password, right? So after that, once the user logs in, we take the user to the home page. And next time, if the user opens the application and they're already logged in, they will see the home page. Correct? Any questions about this flow diagram? No? I'm not getting a lot of responses. Are you able to follow along? Okay, this makes sense, right? So here we have three things to take care of. We have to take care of this question. We have to take care of the login action and we have to take care of the register action. So how do we design these actions and what is the responsibility of server in all these actions, right? So for server, in the first step where we check whether the user is logged in or not logged in, we can create an API like this /user/logged in user. Okay, let me change this to say auth seems more appropriate. Okay, so we will for the first question, whether to understand whether the user is logged in or not logged in, front end will call this API on the server, and server will respond in if the user is logged in, server will respond with user data. Otherwise, it will send some error code saying that user is not logged in. After front end gets the response, if we get the user data, that means user is logged in. Otherwise, we take the user to the home screen. Okay, is this part clear? For the first question, is this clear? We will design an API like this. We will design an API that will decide whether the user is logged in or not logged in. How we will take care of that, we can discuss later. But just understand that this API will decide whether the user is logged in or not logged in. Okay. And these two APIs are very simple. They are doing nothing but adding data to the database. So the auth login API is client and server take care of authentication. User does not have to log in again and again to make API calls. So user will click on login button. We will send email and password, and the server will check whether wait, server will check email and password, right? If this matches, then we allow the user to log in. Okay, this is auth login API. So the responsibility of login API is just to check email and password, right? Then coming to the third part, where the third API is auth register, which is actually taking care of if the user does not exist on the system, then this will create their account and now they can proceed to login. Okay, these three APIs that we are going to build. Clear? So I'm just going to paste it here. Okay. This is the first API that we are going to build. And we will say this is not the first API we will build. We will start with uh, auth, which is going to be a post API, auth register. Then second API that we will build is auth login. And the third API we will build is this one. Okay. So in the first API, we just we add user data to the database. Let's start with this, and uh, then we can also talk about second and third, right? So I'm going to create a file in routes. So I'm going to call these auth routes. Okay. And I'm working in the same directory as this one. It's better if we actually copy this. So all the things that I want till this point. Okay. So we will copy all of this thing and we will work in this directory. Okay. So ask questions if you're not able to follow along. We will create a new router. We will export this. And we will use this router. Okay. This is going to be auth router. Okay. In this, we will add three APIs. First API, we are going to add a post API. And this is register. And for this, we will need a controller. So I'm going to say auth controller. Right. I'm adding a function for register. Inside this, we will pass name, email, and password. So this which part is confusing? This part confusing? This one or the controller part? Okay. So what can you not understand? This is we are creating a router. Do you know about express routers? No? Okay. So in the fourth lecture, we talked about how to create a router. So just like middlewares, did you attend this lecture? In the fourth lecture, we talked about middlewares. So in the middlewares, we can apply a router. Just like React router, we can create a completely different router, right? We said we don't want to define all the routes in this file only, right? Earlier, we were defining routes like this, app.get, app.post. You are aware about this, right? Where we create express app and we say app.get, app.post, app.delete, app.patch. You're aware about that? Uh, can you respond? Do you know about this app.get and app.post to add routes in Express? Soumya, can you respond? Okay, they have left the lecture. Anybody is confused? Okay, so I'll explain if they want to go through the lecture. So what happens is we create Express app, right? We create app like this. So we create an app and we pass app.get. We can define routes like this. So it can be any route and some handler function. So we can define multiple routes like this, but we don't want to define all the routes in the index file. We don't want to define all the routes in this file only. We want to define, uh, let's say we want to define some routes. We want to group routes. So all the auth routes that we have, let's say register, this is going to be a post route, and a post route, say auth slash login, auth slash, let's say logged in user. All these routes we want to define in a separate file so that we can group these routes, right? This is a group of route which is related to auth. So what I can do is, instead of defining these routes here, I can create auth router like this, express.router. This will create a router and I can add routes to this auth router, and all these routers uh, in this router is nothing but a group of routes, and in this group of route I can say app dot use, right? And I can pass a prefix here. So since all of my auth routes are passing is starting with auth, I can remove it from here and I can paste it here. And instead of applying it directly to the app, I can apply this router to the app. Make sense? So like this. So this is doing nothing more, just grouping these routes and starting them with the prefix. So we apply this router on on our Express application. So any route starting with auth will go to this auth router. So this is nothing but nested group of routes, and we group them in a router. Okay, is this clear? Okay. So this is the purpose of introducing a router, and so that this file does not get bigger and bigger with all the routes. We add these routes, we add this part in a completely different file, right? We do this in a completely different file, so that this index file does not get bigger and bigger, because you know that here we are also going to have some logic to handle these routes. So we can completely do this in a different file, and we move this to a different file, and we export this router object, right? We export this router object, and we import this router object, and we just use it like this with a prefix. All the routes starting with auth will go to this router, and if there is a route which is handling something like this, so it will take care of that. Okay, it will take care of that route. Make sense? Cool. So in this router we are going to have request body. In this route we are going to have request body. In that we will have name, email, and password. User will register with these three things, and we are going to uh, use the controller function to do the rest of the logic for this. So this register function we are going to use, we are going to call this, right? And this is an async function. So this will return a user, and we will say this has to be an async function as well, so that we can use of it. And we will pass name, email, and password. Okay, like this. And once the user is added, let's do this in a try catch block, so that if any error we throw, we can throw from here. If there is any error while handling this, we will log the error, and we will say return dot response dot status of 500, send. Okay, is this clear? Cool. So otherwise, if everything goes well, we will return the response with the user that is created. Okay, let's just say we will say uh, register registration successful, please log in. Okay, this is all the routing part. Let's take care of the logic part now. We will add any conditions in the register in the logic itself. So for this we are going to use user model. So we will say already existing. If the user is already existing with that email, and we will say find by email. If the user is already existing, we will throw an error. Okay. Otherwise, we are going to create a new user. Here we are just going to say name, email, and password. Here we are storing the password as the plain text, whatever we are getting, but we should never do this. Later, we will have to change this to a encrypted password. Okay. We have to do this later. So let's not worry about that right now. Once the user is created, we will return the user, although we are not using it here. We can even send this. Okay. In the data object, we will send the user. Okay. So this is all the register function is supposed to do. Register route is complete with this. There is only one problem, that we are going to send the password back in the response, which is not very secure. So to do this, I'm going to say change. There is a this is a mongoose. This object is created by mongoose. So this is not exactly a JSON object, but mongoose gives us a way to change any object, any object that we get into a JSON object. So we can do it like this. Okay. If we do to JSON, this will convert it to the JSON, and we can delete user dot password. Okay. We can delete it like this. And after this, we will send the user object. Okay. So let's test this. Server is listening. We will make an API call. Auth slash register with the post request. In the body, we will pass name. So I'm going to say John Doe. Email is john.doe@example.com. Password is, say, John Doe. Okay. Let's make this. And it says something went wrong. Let's check the logs. What went wrong? It says user already exists. Okay. Let's check. Okay, I think we are using find. We should use find one, because find is always going to return an array, and this is always going to, even if this is an empty array, this condition will still exist. Would I repeat this password part? Okay, so this is going to be this is going to be an object which mongoose create, right? So this is not exactly a JSON object, right? So to convert this into JSON object, we can do it like, we can convert this into a JSON object like this. This is now completely JSON object, and we can remove password field from this JSON object by this. We don't want to send the password back to the user. That is not very secure. Okay, that is why we are deleting the password from this user, but we cannot delete it directly from here. We have to convert it into a JSON object first. Why did we add the password? We want to add the password into the DB, but we don't want to send as a response. These are two completely different things. Okay. We will need the password here in the user object. Say if we want to match the password during login, we still want password, but we don't want to send the password to the in the response. So you have to make sure, and anywhere where you are, wherever you are sending the password to the user. Okay. So anywhere in any of the request, if you are sending user data in the response, you have to make sure that you do not send the password. Okay. All right. So with this, our register should work. So register route should work. Let's send this again. And this time you see we get name, email, ID created at and updated at. We do not get password, and we do not get other properties like image and everything that we have defined in the user model. Okay, for now we don't really care about all these properties: gender, image, phone, date of birth. Let's say we will create another form here, another form to update the profile. We don't want these at the time of registration. Okay, so let's not worry about them right now. Clear? Okay, so this is all about register route. Now let's define login route as well. Okay, second route that we are going to define is the login route. Okay, before we implement this, what is our login route supposed to return? So that next time whenever user enters the application, they don't have to log in again, right? This is a question that we need to answer. So what is the responsibility of the login route? Okay, and this will also answer the question, how will this third API that we were talking about, how will this third API get to know whether the user is logged in or not logged in? When the user lands on the application, when user enters the application, how will our server decide whether the user is logged in or not logged in? So these two APIs are sort of related to each other, and they work together. Okay, so this is I'm going to explain this flow now, how server is going to take care of all of this. So this is the flow that we are going to make. This is the client side and this is the server side. In this you can see client attempts to log in. Uh, so user will send, uh, front end will send auth/auth/ login request with email password. Now, next, the server is going to check user credentials, whether the password matches, and then it will generate a secret token. And that secret token is generated by server and shared in the response, right? And this secret token is stored on the client side. It is stored on the client side, say in cookies or local storage. Client means the front end can store this in cookies or local storage, and it is this secret token is used in all the subsequent requests after that. So for example, if client, if a user enters the application again, then we will call this auth logged in user API with the secret token. This time we will pass the secret token that we received from the server, and server will check whether the secret token is a valid token. If the token is valid, then that means server can respond that this is a valid logged in user. If this secret token, let's say, is not present here, then user can say, sorry, the server can decide that, okay, since this client, it does not possess any secret token, because we are generating the secret token during login, and if the client does not have secret token, that means the user never logged in. Clear? Is the flow simple to understand? So there are two steps. User will log in with the email password. Server will respond with a secret token. Client will then check next time user enters the application. Client can check whether the user is logged in user, but they have to pass the secret token. So if they don't pass the secret token, then server will decide they're not logged in. If they pass the secret token and this is a valid secret token, then the server can respond with, okay, this is a valid logged in user and these are the login details. Okay. Is this flow clear or not clear? Okay. Now this secret token is a very important token. Without this, this flow is not going to work. So we have to understand what this token is and what are the properties of this secret token, right? Okay, there is a question. The token is generated during login. Then how user will already have the token would have been generated at the time of registration. User is not supposed to have the token during login, right? User is only supposed to have token after login. Okay, they're not supposed to have a secret token for registration or login. They only have to keep this secret token when they're making a request where they do not have to log in, right? You cannot think of it like this. You have a page, you have an application, and in that application the tokens are generated after registration, after login, during login. The token is generated during login. Okay, this part generates secret token. They're not supposed to have you front end is not supposed to have, the client side is not supposed to have this secret token unless they log in. Okay, and if they are not logged in, they cannot take any action. They cannot create a post, they cannot like a post, they cannot comment on a post. All these things apply, right? All these things will work after they log in and they get a secret token. If they get a secret token, that secret token will be used to identify who is the logged in user. If the secret token is not present in the on the client side and they do not send it in the secret in the request, then that means the user is not logged in. Where these token is saved in client side, I told you here, in cookies or local storage. We can use any of the things. Okay. Any questions? Is your question answered, Dilasa? Okay. So we have to understand how these tokens work. Then only we can start generating these tokens. And this is going to take some time. And we will talk about these tokens for now. And then we will continue building our login login flow. Okay. So about these tokens, these are called JSON tokens, JWT tokens or JSON Web tokens. JWT stands for JSON Web Token. And we generate these are I'm going to tell you what these looks like. So it's loading. This is what a JWT token looks like. This is a secret token, and you can see this is sort of an encrypted token, and it has three parts. The first part is highlighted in red color, second is highlighted in purple, and blue. So these are separated by these two dots, right? So the first part is called header, and in header we store information like which algorithm is used and what is the type of the token. Okay, this is called the header part. Second part is called payload or claims. We call it payload or claims. And the third part is called uh, signature. Okay, so these three parts are headers, payload or claim, and the third part is signature. First part is stores the information of what is the algorithm used. So here you can see HS 256 is the algorithm used to encrypt this. And the type of the token is JWT. And the second part is the claim or the payload. This is the most important part of this token as this holds the information that we want to encrypt. So for example, we want to encrypt information like this. So this subject name issued at, so all these properties, these are not standard. We can add more details. For example, if you want to store, let's say, this data, let me, if you want to store all of this data, you can do that as well. Okay. um, hmm. So we can add any property here. This is a JSON payload, right? So you can store any information here, and you can see this is now much bigger because we have much more data. So we can store any information here, and in fact we will store information that is useful for us to identify which user is this token related to. So if let's say John Doe user is logging in, then we will create this type of token for this user, right? And if somebody else is logging in, then we will change ID, name, email, all these properties. We don't need created at, updated at, right? We can remove this. So we can have this type of data for each user who logs in. Okay. So and the third type is called signature, and in this this part is called secret part. Okay. And this secret part is uh, owned by whoever is generating the token. If let's say our server is generating the token, so our server should have a secret string with which we can encrypt this payload. So this is like a password, and this password is supposed to nobody knows supposed to know this password other than the person who is issuing these tokens. So if we are issuing these tokens, we will create some password. Let's say JWT secret uh, secret password. So you can see that as I'm changing this, the last part is changing. The first part and the second part, they are not changing. Only the last part and the only the last part is changing because of this. So this signature is actually the thing that is keeping this secure. So I'll tell you how. Okay. And I hope you understand what these JWT tokens are and what are these three parts of this token, right? Any questions about this? So we need us just know that we need a password to generate these tokens, right? We cannot generate these tokens without a password. Okay. Any questions so far? So to give you an idea, let's copy this. Let's add this in the notes. So this is our token. In this token, we have JWT token. We have three parts. First part is the header, and it stores information like what is the algorithm and the type of the token. Second part is the payload, or you can call it claim, and this claim has information like this. Right, this has some JSON data. And the third part is called signature, and this signature uh, is changes as we change the secret, right? So as we change the secret, this part changes. Okay, as you have seen. So how do, first of all, first question is, how do we generate these tokens in Node.js? So in Node.js, I'm going to use a library, and that is called JSON Web Token. Okay, this is the library, and we will install this library, and I'll tell you what this library is doing. So I'm going to create a simple script to test tokens, right? So we will import the library, and this library exposes three functions. First function is decode function, and this is the function that will can decode any JSON web token. For example, we have this token. So if we want to decrypt this token, anybody can decrypt this token, right? This is the property of these type of tokens, that anybody without who does not have any signature. So you know that we have created this signature here with sorry we have created this signature here uh, with this we have created this token with this password. So we here in this file, we don't know what this secret is, but still we can decode what is the payload of this signature. We can still decode what is the payload of this signature. So I will tell you. So if I just run this, so we, anybody can decode this payload without having this secret. Okay, I will write it down over here as well. So let's test this. I'm going to run this script, and you see we get the exact same payload that we created over here, even though we have not used anywhere the password. And this is intentional. This is not any fault in the tokens. This is intentional. We this is allowed by default. By design, this is allowed, right? But you can verify that this token matches with, let's say, some secret or not. So copying this secret. Okay, so the second function that this library gives is jwt dot verify. Okay, so if we in this we pass token and the secret. Okay, so if this token was generated with this secret, then this will work just fine and give us the payload, right? This is going to return jwt payload. Otherwise, if this token was not created with this secret, if we change the value of this secret, then this is going to throw an error. So I'm going to show you. By running this script, we get this. But if I change the, let's say, password to something else, let's say this token was not created with this secret, then this will throw an error saying the invalid signature. The signature does not match, right? This signature does not match. So internally, what is happening? It is trying to generate a token. It will generate a token with this secret and this payload. First, it will it will decode the payload, and then it will try to generate the secret, generate this token with this secret, and the secret part, this signature part is not going to match. So with that, we can identify that, okay, this secret is not the correct secret with which this token was created. Does this make sense? Basically, this is verify function will throw an error if secret is not the one with which the token was generated. Okay, so we are going to use this property in keeping these tokens secure. We will have a secret on the server side. When we generate the tokens, uh, at the time of login, when we generate a token, we will generate a token with a secret. And this secret, and when we get this secret token, we will verify that whether the token is matching with the secret that we used or not matching, right? So this will keep the secret token, the tokens very secure. Is this part clear or not clear? Do you understand this part? Okay. And how will we generate these tokens? We will generate these tokens. Let's say if I want to generate a token, and this library gives us third function, which is sign. So we give the data, right? And we give a secret or private key. So let's use this secret private key. Okay. And we will get another token, and I can log this. Right. So this is the token that we are getting. And you can also check that this is same as this one. While we are generating this token with this secret, right? We are getting the same token. This is exactly same as this one. In industry, every company have their own algorithm. No, we use standard algorithms. There is a standard list of algorithm. We don't create another algorithm, but we have this. If let's say you want to keep your token secure, this secret will be completely hidden away from anybody else. You will not, this will not, nobody else will should know this. Otherwise, uh, if let's say this secret is revealed, anybody can generate a token on your behalf, right? Server is the only place where this secret should be available at, and nobody else should know about this secret, because this secret token is the this secret with which we are generating these tokens is the uh, only thing that we will trust, right, to generate the tokens. If this secret is known to somebody else, anybody can generate these tokens on behalf of the server, and server will not be able to identify whether only server was the uh, issuer of this token. If basically we have to block anybody else from generating tokens on our behalf. If somebody can generate tokens on our behalf, then here we will not be able to identify whether this is a proper token or or not a proper token. Right? Make sense? Basically, we want to be able to check whether this token was generated by us or not generated by us. If we use a very unique or unique and completely secret value here to generate this token, then only we will be able to identify that this was the token generated by us. If somebody else is able to figure out that what is the secret used to generate these tokens, then they can generate the tokens on our behalf as well. Does that make sense? Because anybody can decode the payload, right? Anybody can decode the payload, and the payload that we are keeping here is not very private. It is available publicly in our application. User IDs are publicly available, name, email are publicly available, right? All these things, this is a timestamp only. So all these things are publicly available. So anybody can say, if I want to generate a token for, let's say, user number this, then they will change the payload. And if they know the secret which is used to generate the payload, they will generate this. Also, make sure that you do not use very uh, easy secrets, something that somebody can guess. For example, let's say if I know that this is the payload which is uh, decoded, then let's say I can reverse engineer uh, I reverse engineer. So let's say if this is the data, and I can use brute force to figure out what is the token. If this is a very simple thing that can be guessed. For example, what brute force attack looks like is that I have a list of possible tokens, right? Possible secrets. So I have a list. In this, I can pass something like password, uh, whatever. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, and I know that because this is stored on front end, user can check this in their cookies and say, okay, I want to generate a token like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to run a brute force attack now by saying, okay, I want to generate a token like this, and maybe the secret is one of these possible secrets, right? I want to say for const secret of possible secrets. I want to say JWT dot sign this data. I want to sign this data because this is publicly, anybody can decode this. So they will have from this token, they can decode this data and they can say, okay, from possible secret, this is the token, right? Uh, Possible token, call it possible token. If my possible token is same as the token that the server has generated, I will say uh, figured out the secret. This is the secret used, right? And I will break. So this list is very easily available. What are the most used passwords and all that? So if I run a brute force attack like this, you can see figured out the secret. It was this one. Okay, I can even keep it in the last. So you will see that we should always use a secret which is not very easy to guess. Okay, is this part clear? Is this part clear? How somebody can run a brute force attack to uh, figure out the token, figure out the secret used. Okay, so you should always use something like, if you use something let's say instead secret, we use something very highly random. Okay, if you use like this, nobody is going to be able to guess this. So uh, let's comment this out. So if we use this token, And here, if I try to reverse engineer this or brute force, do a brute force attack, then you will see that they will not be able to figure out this long secret. Okay. So first thing is, a few things that we should always remember about these tokens is, first thing is, anybody can decode these tokens. They are designed in such a way that decode part can be done without a secret, right? Decode part can be done without the secret, but only only the issuer can verify the secret, can verify the token with the secret. Okay. Now there is a question. When we log in with Google in multiple other websites, then the same token is verified or different tokens with different websites. So these are different tokens, not the same token. Google will generate a token for each website. Google will generate a different token. Okay. And Google will, we will talk about OAuth. So don't worry about that right now. Just focus on what we are building right now. Okay. So the first part is that anybody can decode, but only the issuer can verify. So if we are generating the token on the server, then we will be able to identify whether the token was generated by us or not generated by us. If we have a token, if user does not give a token, that means user did not log in. Okay. I hope this part is clear. With this, we can start building our login API. How do we store the token in the cookie? It is very easy. So you can store, I will tell you about, I will tell you that. Okay. Don't worry. We can store in local storage as well. It's not compulsory to store in cookies. Local storage is also a safe place to store the tokens, right? So let's proceed with the login part. So in this, again, we are going to get email and password. We will not get name in the request body. Then let's build a function. We will say email and password. And let's say we check if there is a user. So we will say find one with that email. Okay. And if there is a user, then we will check the password. Otherwise, we will throw an error. User does not exist, right? And if user dot password is same as the password provided here for login, then that means we should generate a token, right? Generate a token for this. This is the responsibility of the server, right? So in this, in fact, let's return. I'm going to create a function here. So we need JWT library to generate the tokens. And we will have the user information. So we will say let payload is, we want ID. So user dot ID. We want name, user dot name. And more than that, we want email. and we also want to have some timestamp where when the token was issued, right? So this is the date. So current timestamp we want to say. Actually, this will automatically be added. I will show you. This will automatically be added even if we don't add this. So we say JWT dot sign. Okay. In this, we are going to say the payload and some secret. So for secrets, I'm going to define a file config index.js. In the config folder, I'm going to define an object, say config module.export, and I will export that. So I'm going to say JWT secret, and the value that I'm going to use here is the random value, any random value, right? Like this. So why I'm creating this file for a purpose. Later on, we will see, we will change something here. Later on, we will see that we don't want to store this secret in a code so that we don't commit this on GitHub, right? But let's worry about that later. So I'm going to say config dot jwt secret, right? So I'm importing config, and this is a user defined module, and this will use this secret, right? So I will generate, I will send two things. I will send the token. So generate token user, and let's also change the user. Let's also send the user data, convert it to JSON, then delete the we will delete the password after we check the password. Okay. So delete the password, and sorry, we will send the user data. So we will send token and the data. In fact, let's keep all of the data here. Okay. So we will delete the user password, and we will send the user in the data. This is all about login. Let's export this and use this here. We should do this in a try catch. So in fact, I'm going to just copy this again. We don't need name here. Okay. So we get login. We call the login with email password, and then we get uh, whatever data, and we can just pass this data here. Okay. Any questions? So we say message is login successful. Let's try to log in with here, remove the name. So server is not running, I think. Let's run the server. So this works. This returns 200 response. In this, we get a user, and we do not get, okay, this data is coming twice. So in the controller part, we will just return this. Okay. And this should have, this should be returning token. This should be returning this token. Okay. If I make this, then in this, we get message saying login successful. Inside data, we have token, and we also have user details. So this token, you can see, I can copy this and I can paste here. I can paste here and see what is the decoded value. So here you see, if I paste this token, right? If I paste this token, you see, we are getting name, ID, email, and IAT issued at. If you look at this date, this is 2/13. Okay, this is just generated right now. And here you can see invalid signature because this is not matching with the token that we added over here. This is not matching this secret value. If I pass the secret value, then you can see signature verified. If I change this, then you will see, then okay, it has changed the value. Okay, it will change the value. Yeah. Okay, so this token, front end has to send this token. We need this token. I'm going to copy this here. Okay, so we need this token. We will send this token in the next request, and server will check whether the token is valid or not valid, and verify the logged in user. Okay, we still have to create the third API, this API, whether user is logged in user or not logged in user, right? So this third API, the front end will send the secret token. Now that front end has this secret token, front end will send the secret token, and server will check whether user is logged in, whether the secret token is proper or not proper, and then it will send the user details. Okay, clear? Any questions? So in the auth router, we will create a get request and we will say logged in user. This is going to be an async request. Okay, here how we are going to get this secret token? Front end will send this secret token in the request headers. Okay, so we will say request header, and this request header will be an object, and we can say uh, authorization. Actually, let me show you. First, we will get all the headers, and then I will show you how we are getting the headers. We will just return, say, response.send. For now, let's just return the headers. Okay. So we are going to make a request to this API, and we are going to pass header token as a header. So this token, I'm going to send I'm going to say logged in user. This is going to be a get request. So we don't need a body here, but we need to send the token. So the way we are going to send the token is by this auth tab. In that we will send bearer token. So there is a method of sending token. We say bearer, and this is the token prefix. So just going to show you that in this we are going to get the headers, right? So when I make this request, you will see that this is what we are getting in the header, right? We are going to send in the header. We are not sending in the body because this token is used by other request also. This is not used in just in this request. It is used in multiple requests. So we don't want to add this header with the body, because in other request we will send the actual body, right? Okay. So we are going to get this authorization header. In that we have a prefix bearer, and then we have space, and then this token. So we have to extract this token here, right? We have to extract this token here. So this is the headers object. Inside that we need authorization property. Okay. Auth header is uh, header authorization header. If this authorization header is present, then we need to extract. Okay, who is this? Please go on mute. Okay. So in this, if the authorization header is present, then we will extract this. Otherwise, uh, we will ignore the request. Okay. Otherwise, we will say return response dot status 400 send message saying user is not logged in. Okay. Otherwise, we will just uh, extract this this token, and then decode and verify this. We have to verify this. So auth header dot split, we will split with a space and do pop will give me the last, split will give me an array by, in the first element is going to be bearer, second element is going to be this is string. So split by space will give me array with two elements, and then we will get the last element. So that is going to be a token. Okay. And then we will do a try catch block. In this try catch, we will say JWT. We need JWT here. Okay. So we will say JWT dot verify, and we will pass the token with the string. Okay. In fact, let's do this in our controller only. We will say function verify token. We will pass the token here. So we will say try catch error, because this is application logic. We don't want to write it here, write it there. Or let's call this payload. If this works, config.jwt secret, we will return the payload. Otherwise, we will throw this error. So it's same as doing like this. Okay, so instead of using JWT here, we can just use verify. We need to export that verify token. We say verify token, and we pass the token here. Okay, we get the payload. Now, if this works, then we are going to we should do this in a try catch block. Because this could throw an error. So if we don't do this in a catch block, then this could result in an error. Okay, so if this goes, if throws an error, then we will return something like this. Okay, so let's check this. Otherwise, if everything goes well, then we can just have a user with we attach the user with the ID. So I'm going to create a function. So point by ID, and then we return user, right? We first change to JSON because we don't want to send that password. So we say user is user to JSON, delete user dot password. Then we will return the user. Okay. So here we will say const user is get user by ID. This is an async function. So let's use await here, and we will pass ID from payload. And here we can say return response dot send. Inside data, we will have user. Okay, so if we do this, then you see here we are getting correct user. If we do not pass this token, let's say if we do not pass this token, then you say user is not logged in. If we pass this token, if we pass a token, but if we pass invalid token, say if I pass some token which is generated with some other secret, then if I pass this token which is invalid, then you can see it says something went wrong. Okay, so this is how you how you can verify whether the user is logged in or not logged in. If the user is logged in, there whether they are logged in with the proper token or not. Okay, is this understood? Any questions? Okay, so this token is helping us in identifying who is a logged in user, right? This is how we are identifying who is the logged in user. It is important to understand if this part, otherwise it is going to be very difficult for you to understand how auth is working. And also, this token is not just useful in getting the logged in user, it is also useful in other APIs. So let's say when we are creating a post, when we are making post/post API to actually create or add a blog post, then how is server going to identify who is the logged in user? At that point also, this secret token is used to identify who is the logged in user. Okay, so this part is not just useful in this API, in logged in user API, but it is used in any API where we have to identify who is the logged in user. Okay, so currently we are getting user ID, this user ID, this user ID in the request body. But with the secret token, if whenever user makes a post request, we don't want user ID. We just want title, content, and the secret token. With the secret token, we can easily identify the user ID, right? So we can remove the dependency on front end to send the user ID, because if we allow this, then that will become a security issue. Okay, this will become a security issue, Any user can pass any other user's ID in this request body, and that they will be able to add a post on behalf of any user. So to achieve this, what we are going to do is we are going to copy this. We are going to copy this part here, and we can paste it here, right? We can paste it here. If this is a valid user, then we don't need user ID. We say user ID is coming from this user. All of this goes inside here now. Okay. So if the auth header is present, then we will return user is not logged in, right? And this verify token we can also import here. We look at the authorization header, we get the token, we verify the token payload, get the user, so get the logged in user by this ID, payload ID that we added while generating the token. So this user must have received this authorization token, this token, while they were logging in, and then we can add this. So for example, if I make the request, okay, if I make the request post and I use this token, right? And in the body, I will send title. So for title, I'm just going to use something. Hold on. Let me generate some lorem. This is the title, and this is content. Okay. This is content. So we just need to make a, so for example, if I don't pass this token, if I don't pass this token and I make this request, then we will get a response saying user is not logged in. If I make this request with an invalid token like this, if I make this with an invalid request, it says something went wrong. But if I make this request with a valid token, then okay, something goes wrong over here. It says title is required. Okay, are we not sending the title? Oh, title is there. Something is wrong. Let's log title, content, and user. So title is this, content is this, and this is the user. Post validation failed, author.user ID, cast to string failed to value. Oh, I think something here is wrong. User underscore ID. Yeah. Okay. So if I make the request, this will work just fine now. So here you will see we just pass the user ID. We just pass the token in the auth header, but here we are getting user ID and name. We are getting user ID and name. We are not getting image because there is no image right now for this user. That's why the image is not coming in the author object. Okay, so this is how you can secure your APIs. This is how you can secure API like this API. So here we don't depend on front end to send us user ID. And this is always going to be common logic for a lot of APIs. So it's better to convert this into a middleware. Okay, so I'm going to convert this into a middleware. So coming back, how we define middlewares is, say, async function or middleware. We get request, response, and next, right? Module.exports is auth middleware. So inside this, we can do all of this logic that we are doing here. We can do all of this logic, like we can do all of this logic here, right? If the user is not logged in, we can directly end the request just here, right? Otherwise, we can call the next function. Also add catch block if something goes wrong. Okay, so what we are doing is, in this middleware, we have not applied this middleware anywhere, but in this middleware, we are getting the headers. We are looking at the authorization header. If the authorization header is present, then we are looking at the token. Then we are decoding, verifying whether the token is correct or not correct. If this is not correct, then this will throw an error and it will result into something went wrong response. But if this is a correct token, then we will get the user and we will send the request into the to the next function in chain. So what we are going to do is, right now we have just decoded the user, but we have not used it anywhere. How will we use it? How we will use it by saying request. I'm going to modify this request object. I'm going to modify this request object, and I'm going to say request.user is this user. So anytime I need this user, logged in user, I can look at request.user. Okay. No, we don't pass anything to the function. This function does not take any parameter. Okay. It we have to use it in some other ways. This function does not actually passes any data. Okay. Because this is not our function, right? We have not created this function. So we can modify this request object though. And this request object, we are saying logged in user. So it's better to say logged in user is this user. So if we apply this middleware, all the requests will go through auth middleware, right? And this will take care of looking at the header, auth header, then decoding the token and getting the logged in user with that token. Okay, with that payload. So all these things will be taken care, and it will also inject the logged in user in this request object. So anywhere in the chain, anywhere we want to get the logged in user, we will look at request dot logged in user. So for example, we can now remove all of this logic. We can remove all of this logic. Uh, all of this logic we can remove, and we can say const logged in user from request. If the user is not logged in, the request will end directly here. The request will end here. We don't need to do anything. So user is not logged in, right? Or the token is not correct. So all of these things will be taken care of. We can guarantee that guaranteed that user is logged in, right? So we can apply the auth middleware here, like an inline middleware we can apply. Okay. So this auth middleware we have exported, and we can easily apply this in any of the endpoints that we want to secure for logged in users. Okay. If the user is not logged in, the request will directly terminate over here. It will not even reach this because we are calling the next function only in the successful case, only in the happy case. Okay. We are not calling the next function in any other case. So we can guarantee that the logged in user will be uh, the user will be logged in and it will always work, right? If we modify the request object, will it not make changes to the only local? No, no. In JavaScript, objects are passed by reference. So it's not a copy exactly. It's the reference to that object in memory. Okay. You can check also, but I was expecting you should know all these things. This is the last unit. So these are passed by reference, and anything we change here is reflected in inside the memory where this object is stored at. Okay. Does this make sense? This auth middleware. You can also use this auth middleware for auth router where we had defined all of this. So you can say the request will end if the user is not logged in. But if the user is logged in, we can get logged in user from request, and we can pass in the data, we can pass the logged in user. So if I make a request to say logged in user, then okay, it's saying something wrong. But if I pass with correct token, then I'm getting the user data. Okay, clear? So now we can use this auth middleware for quickly checking. We can reuse this anywhere in wherever we want to secure the routes for logged in users only. Understood? Anybody has any questions? I'm not getting too many responses. Only a few people are asking questions. How many have understood the auth flow? We have worked on 3 APIs and we have also secured this API. So in total, in this application, we have only 5 APIs, but we have made progress and understood how the authentication is working. Anybody has any questions? No? Okay. Cool, then will we have to revisit a few, yeah, you will have to revisit a few times, but please go through this because this is the most important part about backend. If your APIs are not safe, then there is, I mean, you should have some idea how to secure your APIs based on the, so the PSC we will be working with, we will be working on a PSC and it will have all these components, login, authentication. So we will revisit again anyway, but please go through this so that it's easy for you to understand when we make a completely full stack application. We will do it in the second last lecture of this series. In total, we have 13 lectures. This is the ninth lecture. So the 12th lecture will be the PSC. After this, we will have 10th and 11th lectures are also around authentication. So different ways of authentication. So two more lectures for authentication and authorization and all those things. And in the next lecture, we are going to look at OAuth, which is using authentication providers, auth providers like login with Google, login with GitHub. So we'll work on that. And the next and the 11th lecture is also about authentication, and where we will start working on PSC. And the 12th lecture is completely going to be front end related, where we use or consume these APIs that we have built. So we will be working on the front end part. After that, the last lecture, 13th lecture, is the deployment lecture. Okay. All right. This is a very basic idea. If you go through this, it's nothing complicated. We are using everything that we have learned so far. Also, in this, we have introduced the concept of tokens only. So I hope that part is clear, uh, and you have understood it very well. If not, go through this lecture again, because you will have some time in the weekend, and if you catch up, if you catch up with this, it's going to be very easy for you to proceed, right? Otherwise, you may face some difficulty, but it's good if you understand this. Then you're almost ready with whatever we have to do on backend, whatever is expected for you to know, right? Yes, I will upload the recording. Cool. If this part is clear, I also want to explain the things we left for doing later. We have to take care of two things. First thing is, in this config folder, we don't want to have secret values like this in the code. If we keep the values like this in code, that means uh, when we are working in a team, everybody will know about this JWT secret token, and people will join the team, people will leave the team. So anybody who leaves the team can do us harm, right? Can do a dangerous thing, because they know what this JWT secret is. So what do we want to do is, we want to have a concept of saying that in production where the actual application is running for actual users, the value will be different. But in development, during development, the value will be this value will be completely different. So any developer can change the value on their system, but on production, only some people who have the access to deploy will be able to add will be able to add this token, right? Does this make sense? Why we don't want to keep this value in the code, hard coded in the code? It is not a best practice. Okay. So there could be problems if we keep this in code. So there is a way to do this, and that is called using environment variables. So we have looked at environment variables where we change the environment variable for Windows. Similarly, I'm just going to go ahead and implement this. And yes, we are going to read the value from environment, which is process. So dot env dot jwt secret, like this. And where we will get the value in env, where we define this value, we define this value in an env file. Okay. And we say jwt secret, right? And there we define this value like this. Okay. We define this value like this. And but how are these two files connected? But to load these environment variables, these secret variables into our application, we have to use a library called .env. So we use this library called .env to store all the to load the variables from this .env file. So we say require, we require the .env. This will give us the object, and we directly can call the config function. Okay. In config function, this will load all the environment variables. So if I show you that process.env.jwt secret, right after this, you will see that this is the environment variable we are reading, right? Secret token. So this config file is this secret JWT secret is not uh, hard coded in the file, but it is taking from this file, and this file we never ever push to GitHub, right? This file is not supposed to be pushed to GitHub. That's why I have written this star dot env in the git ignore for this repository. That means in any of the repository, in any of the folders, .env file should be ignored from GitHub. Okay. So this .env is for development. When we deploy this application on production or on server, we will have to create .env file separately, right? Because this will not be loaded in from GitHub. We will clone the code using GitHub, but this file will not be present. We will have to create this file. Okay. So for telling which variables we need, we can actually add sample, right? This sample env file. So you have to tell your developers in some way that these are the variables you need. So let's define here setup. In the setup part, env create a .env file with these variables. So we can say like this, and here we say whatever you want. So whatever they want, they can define it like this. Okay. So while we are doing this, we can also pick the environment variable. So in sorry, we can also pick the uh, connection, DB connection as well. We can also remove, because this is also sort of a secure thing we want to secure. So DB connection URL, I'm going to define here in this file. Right now it is not something we should worry about, but if we add, let's say uh, if we add something like this has my username and password, so I don't want to leave this in the code, right? I don't want to leave this in the code, so I can just keep it like this. Okay. So for now we are going to use the local host. I'm going to comment this part, but if you want to use something like this remote URL, so you can uncomment this. Okay. So instead of reading from here, we say config dot, in the config, let's define db connection URL DB connection URL and use that here. Okay. So with this, it should also work just fine. So these are the only two things that we want to keep safe so that we don't push it to GitHub. Okay. So this is all about keeping the things secure in your application so that there are less and less security issues. It's not like we will work on all the security issues, but these are the most important things that you should know, right? So yeah, another thing that we left for doing later is this part where we are storing the password as a plain text, right? So there is a library to encrypt the password and to verify the password, and that is called uh, this is the last thing that you should know for this lecture, but there is a library bcrypt.js. um okay, there is this one. So I'm going to install this, and the way we use this is very simple. We just import this library, and in password we store password by bcrypt dot uh, hash sync. There is a function called hash sync. Wait, why is this not suggesting me anything? Okay, I think I'm doing the wrong thing. So we destructure the password and we send the password here. It should not be used here. It should be used in controller. So the password here, we should say, sorry, password here will be bcrypt dot hash sync, and we will pass the password. Okay, like this. And then we can, while checking the password, we cannot check like this because this password will now be encrypted. Okay, so I will show you how the password is getting stored. And while checking the password here, we have to use something like bcrypt dot compare sync, and this is the password that we want to compare, and this is the password that we want to compare against. So this is the hashed password, right? So we pass the this one and user dot password. So this is the hashed password, and this is the password that user has sent while logging in. Okay, this is the this is very simple. And now if we do sign up, if we do a sign up, so I will say register, and in the body I will send name and a password, say just password, right? If I do this, okay, server is not running. We should also remove this log. This is going to be a post request. So see, the user is created, and I'm going to show you in Mongo shell. We are using the same database. We are using the blogs example database. So db.users.find, if I say email, if you look at this password, see now this is a hashed password. So even if somebody is able to look at our database, they will not be able to check the user's password, right? Because these are encrypted unreversibly, irreversibly. They will not. This is cannot be. This cannot be decoded to get the password. Unlike JWT tokens, which can be decoded, this cannot be decoded. So even if anybody who is able to look at our database, they will not be able to see users' passwords. Okay. So this is one more security thing that you should be aware about. Make sense? And if I try to log in, so if I try to log in without this, so if I change the password to something, then you will, okay, we are seeing login unsuccessful because of, okay, because we are not throwing an error here, right? If something goes wrong, we should throw an error. If the password does not match, uh, say password does not match. So here you say something went wrong. Okay. So error we are getting as password does not match. But if we pass the correct password, then this time we are able to log in successfully. Okay. This time we are getting this token. And now user can use this token to get the logged in user and or to add post or to like post or to add comment or whatever. So there should be this token that is controlling whether the user is logged in or not logged in. Okay. I hope it is clear. So with this, we are done with today's lecture. Authentication, secrets, and auth flow, right? Any questions? Anybody has any questions? I hope we are not going too fast and you're able to understand everything in the lecture. I'm trying to go slow so everybody can understand. But please go through the lecture again and go through the code as well. If you find something you're not able to get or grasp during the lecture. Okay. Cool. All right then, folks. I'll see you in the next class. Any good interview sources to look at? You can find a lot, actually. So I'll try to share in the next lecture. I will try to find a link, some repository with the JavaScript backend, backend Node.js backend interview questions. Okay, cool.